Okay, I've never done this before, so this might be a bit of a disaster, but I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, but have been trying to find the right time and energy, which I realized is a joke, so here it goes. Anyway, I'm Nicole, and I have a chronic illness. Well, 2 chronic illnesses, and more, depending on who's counting. I have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, or POTS, and also median arcuate ligament syndrome, or MALS. Both kind of weird and rare disorders that took a really long time to diagnose. Anyway, I guess I just wanted to share my story because there's been a lot of times in my life that I wish I could have known that I wasn't alone in all of this. So I'm hoping to even reach one person that's feeling alone right now, and maybe help out. Anyway, I've been sick since I was 6 years old, at least. I won't go into all of that. At 6, I remember my parents taking me to the ER for fluids because they didn't know what was wrong. My mom calling me Snow White because I was oddly pale all the time, kind of looked like a corpse, and wouldn't get up off the couch, didn't want to go to school, didn't want to eat. And the doctors told us it was anxiety in a 6-year-old, because that makes sense. Anyway, I got a little better after that, never figured out what was wrong. And then 4th grade rolls around, and there you go again. Not going to school, too tired to get up in the morning, tests after tests, mostly GI tests because I get a lot of stomach pain, wasn't eating. Again, they told me it was anxiety or acid reflux, which turns out was a big giant joke, even though I do have acid reflux. But anyway, got a little better after that. I was probably sick around 6 months to a year at that point. And then I got a little better and went back to school and made it till 9th grade. And then shit hit the fan. Wow, this is a long story, and I'm probably missing a lot, but I guess a little is better than none. So 9th grade rolls around, and I got so sick again, and we had no idea what was wrong, but we weren't gonna let them being the doctors, tell us that it was just anxiety or acid reflux or all in my head, which I got that a lot. Anyone with a chronic illness can probably attest to that, because that's something you hear a lot from doctors who can't find something physically wrong with you, or it's not something that they see a lot. They just can't figure it out, so you're making it up. Anyway, 9th grade rolls around, and I go to a cardiologist because I start passing out and getting just extreme fatigue and tachycardia. Again, all of this stomach pain, I stopped eating, I lost probably 25 pounds, a lot of stomach pain and nausea. So we went to this cardiologist at CHOP, and they diagnosed me with POTS, which is, like I said, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And for those of you who aren't diagnosed or do have POTS or are looking into POTS and aren't really sure what it is, basically it's just a condition that affects like your circulation. So you get a high heart rate, low blood pressure usually, which causes you to pass out, but it's a lot of times all upon standing, which is what orthostatic means. Anyway, that was a really bad description. I'll probably do another video on the actual like disorders I have, but I guess those are the symptoms. So I was passing out getting out of bed in the morning, I was passing out at school, standing up from my chair, sometimes if it's a really bad day, just walking, I get dizzy. So they diagnosed me with that off of an orthostatic testing, which I can also go into in maybe another video. But I was then put on hundreds of medications, all of which had worse side effects than actually helped any of my symptoms. So that was fun, being on 10 different medications every day at, I guess I was 14 years old. I don't even know anymore. Yeah, probably around there. Sorry, I should have written more of this down and had a plan of what to say, but I've told this story so many times, so I figured, what the hell, just gonna go for it. Anyway, I was on medications for all of 9th grade. I pretty much had to drop out of school. I was pass-fail classes. Did a lot of classes online from home. I was put on way too much Ritalin because my doctors were worried about my mental health. So they wanted me in school for social interaction. So I needed about 60 milligrams of Ritalin to stay awake for one class and make it to school in the morning. So that continued for all of 9th grade and into 10th grade with no end in sight. I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So thank God for my mother. She did all kinds of research, looked up doctors, researched disorders, my symptoms, literally pretty much whatever she could find, and she found a POTS specialist in Virginia. I live in PA, so, and I just started going to doctors, so a 4-hour drive for a doctor was like, ugh, you know, or you don't know, and you might have to end up driving 4 hours to a doctor, and I'm so sorry, but it's probably gonna be worth it, because we went to this POTS specialist, and he confirmed my diagnosis of POTS. He did a tilt table test, which I passed out strapped to a table. That's enjoyable, just in case anyone hasn't had one of those done, or may have one done in the near future. Now you'll know what to look forward to. He did the orthostatic testing, which is basically the way they diagnose POTS is if your heart rate goes, jumps 30 beats higher from going from laying to standing, and stays that way for over 5 minutes, you have POTS, which isn't much of a diagnostic tool, but that's how they diagnose you. So he did a whole hell of a lot of tests, stress tests, EKGs, and because he is an amazing doctor and such a smart guy, which I will go into more about my different doctors and different experiences and recommendations, personal recommendations. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I shouldn't be recommending actual doctors to anyone, but just look them up. But I'll do that all in another video, I guess. Anyway, he had about, I think, maybe 6 to 8 other patients at the time who had also been diagnosed with POTS to come see him, but their main complaint and main symptom was abdominal pain, nausea, and weight loss, which was by far my top complaint. I could barely keep food down, so, and no one ever really addressed that. I mean, I have IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, a lot of information, sorry guys, but I have that. I also have acid reflux, so a lot of the doctors just assumed that was where the stomach pain was coming from, but no one really ever addressed the fact I lost 25 pounds in a very short period of time. So he had found in a few of his POTS patients with severe abdominal pain that they had what is called median arcuate ligament syndrome. And basically, what that is there is an artery off of your abdominal aorta, which, I mean, I went to school for biology, so this is all common knowledge to me, and I've also been in the hospital since I was 6. So I know a lot about this stuff, but your abdominal aorta is a big fat artery that gives a lot of blood to your organs in your stomach. And there's a little tiny trunk off of that called the celiac artery that supplies blood to your stomach and your intestines and all that good stuff. And there's also a ligament right around that area that is attached to your diaphragm that is supposed to be above your celiac artery. And in my case, and what Dr. Abdallah, who's my cardiologist in Virginia, diagnosed, my ligament was on top of my artery. It was compressing the blood flow. And since it was attached to my diaphragm, every time I breathed, there was compression. Every time I ate, MALS is associated with postprandial abdominal pain, which means after eating, there's excess abdominal pain because of blood flowing to your organs to digest your food, which explains the stomach pains. But yeah, he diagnosed me with a stethoscope, a bruit or something. He could hear it, that there was abnormal blood flow. I don't know, but he did it in seconds after years of being misdiagnosed and going from doctor to doctor, medication after medication. This man diagnosed me with a stethoscope. So, that is how I got my second diagnosis of another chronic illness. And boy, have I done a lot since then. That was in, I want to say 2013. I was in 10th grade. In 10th grade, I also had my first surgery. So, along with a diagnosis of MALS, comes a lot of surgery. It starts out with, which I had originally, in DC. I saw a surgeon there, that worked with my cardiologist. They did a partial release of the ligament, that was compressing my artery, and that helped for, a few, 8 months to a year. It wasn't long. And then the symptoms came back. The stomach pain, the nausea, I stopped eating. And I went back to my cardiologist, and he did a Doppler ultrasound, which is how he officially diagnosed my condition. They can tell something with the velocity of the blood flow. I don't know. I'm pretty much a pro at this point with all of it. I guess I'll make another video too on that, all the sciencey stuff behind that. But to not bore everyone, they use an ultrasound to diagnose it properly. So I come back a year after surgery, and they do another ultrasound, and it is compressed again. So that means more surgery. But the surgeon that I saw initially was only trained to do the initial surgery I had. So my cardiologist suggested we go see a surgeon in Chicago. That was a bit of a shock to myself and my parents, obviously, because we thought the 4-hour drive to Virginia was a lot for a doctor, and now we have to travel 12 hours to Chicago for, little did we know, 3 surgeries. So I did end up going to Chicago. I saw a vascular surgeon there. They did a whole lot of testing. They did as minimally invasive surgeries and procedures as they could. I mean, obviously, I was young, and a surgeon wants to be conservative on a young kid, so we did little baby steps, which take a really long time. When we first got there, they did an angiogram and an angioplasty, which is basically a catheter procedure, that they can open the artery up from the inside. From a CT, he had seen a lot of scar tissue, and thought that could be the issue. That's why the blood wasn't flowing properly. So I got that done, and it helped for 2 weeks. I felt a little tiny bit better for 2 weeks, and then I felt like crap again. So we went back again. And he did another angioplasty. He said there was a lot of scar tissue, so he wanted to make sure he had gotten it all. And then that helped for maybe a week. Probably barely even a week. But then my artery pretty much almost fully collapsed. Because, let me remind you, the first surgery that I got, which was a laparoscopic procedure, was only a partial release of the ligament. So now that supporting structure on the inside of the ligament, or in the inside of the artery, was gone. So that ligament that was still there fully compressed the artery, and I got really, really, really bad. No school, no nothing, no seeing friends. I barely could get out of bed in the morning. I literally could not eat a thing. I was gonna have to get another surgery. This time, a full release of my ligament, and they cut some nerves in that area to help with the pain. But they couldn't do the surgery until I put on or stopped losing weight. So I had to drink Ensures and like gross meals in a drink. Not enjoyable. But I did that, and I had my 4th surgery in a matter of 2 years. And this was a full release, bye-bye nerves, no pain. You should be good after this kind of surgery. And I was really good after that. I finished senior year, I graduated high school on time, I got into college, I finished my freshman year at Ursinus, which is where I went to school, and things were looking good. I was a biology student, pre-med. I wanted to be a surgeon, just like my surgeons. Be inspiring, because I was sick, so I should probably help someone else too. Anyway, everything was great until about Thanksgiving of my sophomore year of college, when I thought I was in the clear. And then one night I was up at 4 a.m. in the morning sobbing because my stomach hurt so bad that I was certain my artery was broken again. That's just easier to refer to it as broken than explain all of that stuff every time I talk about it. Anyway, yeah, I knew it. There is just anyone that has been sick or has any reoccurring sicknesses, chronic illnesses, you just know it's not a feeling you forget. So I called my mom at 4 a.m. from college, and I said, "Mom, I'm coming home. We gotta go to the doctor's tomorrow." And we did, and it was broken again. And mind you, I was mid-sophomore year trying to become a doctor. Nowhere close, but I was trying like hell to be one. So leaving school wasn't ideal. Plus, we had to find a new surgeon because anyone that has chronic illness or trying to get diagnosed knows that health insurance is a pain in the ass. And they didn't understand why I needed to go all the way to Chicago for surgery. If I could find a doctor here. And we said, you find us a doctor or a surgeon that knows what my condition is without having to look it up, and we will go see them. And they actually did. So, thank God, because I was sick of driving to Chicago. Not a fan of the city, especially when the only reason I'm there is for surgery. So I ended up seeing another vascular surgeon at the Einstein Medical Center. And he knew my condition. He really hadn't treated it before, but he felt comfortable, with the surgeries that may or may not be involved with it. But he didn't want to do bypass surgery on a 20-year-old, which would be my next step, because at that point my artery had pretty much collapsed again because of scar tissue buildup from all the surgeries that I had previously, and there just pretty much was no salvaging the artery at this point. there was nothing more to remove. Trying to remove the scar tissue obviously is kind of counteractive. You just cause more scar tissue. So our next move would be bypassing the entire artery. So basically I would have an artificial artery. And it's a pretty major surgery. I mean, when you hear of bypass surgery, it's usually 50 to 60-year-olds whose hearts are failing because they're clogged. So a 20-year-old getting bypass surgery is not ideal. So he put me through the ringer. Not in a bad way. He was trying to be cautious and wanted to be thorough, which I can't be mad at him for. He ordered an endoscopy to check for acid reflux, which I told him I had, and I knew I had, and I had been treated for. And the endoscopy confirmed that. So he put me on medication for a month or two, and I swore it wasn't doing anything. I was rapidly losing weight. I wasn't at school anymore. Sorry. And I just knew that my artery needed to be fixed. I had gotten an ultrasound in Virginia from my cardiologist, who thought it did look like it needed to be repaired, but this new surgeon wasn't fully on board. So after treating me for acid reflux, he suggested getting my gallbladder tested, which I actually have never had done before up until that point, so we figured it was something new. Might as well give it a try. So I get the test done to check your gallbladder, and mine was chronically inflamed. Of course it was. So they were like, this is it, there we go, that's why you don't feel good. For those of you who don't know, your gallbladder is like this little teeny tiny thing that helps digest fatty foods. It like releases bile into your stomach, but if it's inflamed, it can cause nausea, stomach pain, a lot of my symptoms. So I was like, alright, let's give it a try. Like, I mean, deep down I knew that I needed surgery to fix my artery, so I wasn't completely on board. But they removed my gallbladder after I had a gallbladder attack, while I was in Florida. So they removed my gallbladder and said give it a few weeks. 2 weeks, you should feel completely fine. 2 weeks go by, and I don't even feel kind of better. Not even, like, the tiniest bit. They're like, there's no way. Like, it was so chronically inflamed. There were cysts on it. Like, you have to feel better. Not even kind of. So, they go, give it another month. I was like, alright, don't these people know that I'm trying to get to med school and graduate with my friends? Anyway, another month goes by, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like, I really just don't feel good still, like, I don't think that was it, like, please just check my artery. He goes, fine, we'll do an endoscopy, angiogram, which is like a diagnostic tool. I've had them before. So they do, the way it works for my condition is, since it is attached to my diaphragm, part of the compression of the artery has to do with the way I breathe. So I have to be partially awake during the procedure, so I'm not like fully sedated. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's no like big giant incisions, like I'm not in pain, it's local anesthetics, but I do need to be somewhat conscious, so I can breathe in and out. So I have had this disorder now for multiple years, had multiple surgeries, and I've seen the artery on multiple imaging, diagnostic, whatever. So I'm in the OR, and they're doing this angio, and on this big screen comes my artery, and the way the disorder works is instead of the artery being straight, it's like a little J hook kind of guy. And I literally said, there it is, and my surgeon just looked at me shocked, and he was like, yeah, you're right. I was like, I told you. So he came into the recovery room. Ooh, whoops. After the surgery, and he said to my parents, "Well, your daughter is not crazy." And I was like, wow, thanks, that was a little bit of a slap to the face. Like, we all knew I wasn't crazy. You were the one doubting me, but it's fine. So anyway, like, probably a month or so later, April 3rd to be exact, of 2018? God, I don't even know anymore. 2018. It was 2 years ago. I had bypass surgery. I have an 8-inch incision down my stomach, which I guess I will show in some other time. But it was a bit of a shock to wake up. I knew what I was getting into when I went into it, but to wake up in the ICU at 20 years old with a tube coming out of your nose and not being able to stand up on your own was a bit of a shock. And I've been through a lot of surgeries. So this one was definitely a bit of a life changer. The recovery was really, really long and rough. I was in ICU for 3 to 4 days, and then the hospital for the rest of the week. And then I went home, and then a week later, I drove back to the hospital. Well, I didn't drive, my mom drove me back to the hospital at 6 a.m. because I was having severe stomach cramps and pain and throwing up. And turns out I had what was called an ileus, which is a side effect or complication, I guess, of an, like, open surgery. And basically what an ileus is like your stomach is not pushing foods through properly, so it just, like, filled up with fluids, so, like, it was probably the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. I was in the hospital for another week, like, just throwing up a lot. It was not fun. But I made it through that, and by the end of May, I could walk up straight again without having to lean on someone. I got an internship at a doctor's office. I took some summer classes to catch up on the semester I had to take off. And I was determined to get through this and keep pushing and to make it all work. Wanted to defy the odds and fight a chronic illness and go to med school and have a life. And it's just about as hard as it sounds. So anyway, there's a lot more to this story. In those 2 years that have passed since that surgery, that I will hopefully get to in another video. We'll see how these go. But at this point, I'm still pretty pissed that I got sick again and had to take a semester off, and I'm still dealing with this to this day. I'm having trouble working full-time, without a lot of exhaustion and dizziness. My stomach still hurts every single day. I can eat, but most days I prefer not to. Yeah. It's a lot for anyone out there that has a chronic illness or is trying to get diagnosed. I feel you. It really sucks some days. And I figured today was a good day to make this video because today sucked. I had 2 doctor's appointments today. I'm trying to figure out how to get through life with the way I feel every day, so I'm just getting some more testing done. Talked to some other people with my conditions who are on daily IV hydration with like a port in their chest, so I'm getting that considered, which obviously is going to be a huge life change. Having to do my own IVs from home, nothing like bringing the hospital home. I started therapy because no matter what you think when this all starts, you're not fine. So just go to therapy when the doctor tells you to go to therapy, because it's a lot on a person. As much as you want to think you're strong and tough, which I always have thought that, it's nice to talk to someone about it. So do that. And don't give up on yourself. There were so many days years ago that I was convinced that the doctors were right, that it was all in my head, that I was just being lazy, or just didn't want to go to school, or just, I don't know, had anxiety, I guess. I mean, I definitely do now, but that's just because of all of this crap. But don't give up on yourself and keep fighting, because as much as it's not a lot of times a fatal disease, or you're not gonna die from it, which I guess is what fatal means, but it takes a big toll in your life. So do everything that you can to try and figure out what's wrong and to make yourself feel the best that you can feel. And I guess at this point, I just wanted to try and be able to help out someone that might be in the place that I was at one point, because it is a dark, scary place, and you feel really alone, because as much as your mom and your dad and your family loves you and is fighting for you to feel better, they will never know how you actually feel. But there are people out there that do, and I've been watching people's videos and reading people's posts about their chronic illnesses and what they do, and it helps a lot to know that there are other people out there that are just like you, so you don't feel weird and lonely and like no one gets it. So reach out to those people, reach out to me, please. I want to help. If you're further along than I am in your journey, reach out to me. I could use the help too. But yeah, again, I guess to wrap up, I have postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome and median arcuate ligament syndrome. And they suck. But I'm getting through it, and I'm gonna figure this out. And we can figure this out together, because it's a lot better to do it with someone than to do it alone. So reach out. If you know someone with a chronic illness, if you think you have one, reach out to someone, because it'll help, I promise. Anyway, I guess this wasn't a total disaster. I don't know. I kind of want to make more videos to talk about stuff. Just to hopefully help one person at least. But yeah, thanks for listening. If you decide to, like I said, feel free to talk to me. I'm more than happy to share doctors' names. Just listen if you're struggling, if no one gets it, because I do. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys, and I hope everyone has a good day, and take care of yourselves, because it's important. Hopefully I'll make some more videos soon.